Hello, John.
Hello, Warner.
And today we're going to talk about what's known as the sport of kings. For many, many years, I've passed the Phoenix Park, obviously going through it, living in Dublin. And I often see as I'm going into the city, you see the polo grounds there to the left. But I actually never seen horses. I never actually seen the game being played until this evening. It was a nice sunny evening, so I decided to make my way. When I seen the horses there, I took a left, drove up. And it's quite an interesting game. It wouldn't be a game for me. It's quite sedate. I find it. Um, but I think it's a beautiful game. It's when you see the beauty of the horses, how well they're kept, and all that. And the first match in Ireland was in 1872 in Carlow.
Reverend Carlow.
In Carlow, yes,
Right, there you are. So it took off for all over the world, as far as I can see, starting over 2,000 years ago in Persia.
that's right.
And there's usually kings and emperors encouraged it, and it kept them fit or something, and also for the cavalry because some of these countries had empires in some ways, conquered other countries. So polo was a sport supported by royalty of one kind or another, and also then it spread to other countries where people enjoyed the sport, and it was often a spectator sport, and it was in the Olympics until 1936 for maybe uh, 4 or 5 Olympics, but then it wasn't a sport then in the Olympics anymore. But it's a sport that has widespread appeal worldwide.
Absolutely. So in 1873, Horace Rochford, sounds like an English name. He established the 9 acres in the Phoenix Park. What you have today in the Phoenix Park was established by him all the way back in 1873.
1873, yes, the British were in charge here at that time, and they would have all the residents in Phoenix Park, the viceroy or governor, and all these ones. Would had residents in Phoenix Park, including the Guinness, where this Irish place, this place that was owned by the Guinnesses, of the Brown family. They got titles, lords, this, that, and the other, and but so it's played by generally speaking, people that have the facilities and the money for that kind of a sport, because the horses are well groomed, and apparently the team, there's four or maybe four in each team, and they only last for they last for something like 10 minutes or maybe even less, and it goes on for a couple of hours, but they break or something like that, probably to rest the horses and to recover, because it must be a grueling type of a sport, because the ball, as you described, is small enough, and to have now protective gear because of the business of the sport, and it could be sometimes dangerous in some ways. But it's a sport that it applies to people that are interested in it. It would be a minority, I think, of well-to-do people that have that type of funds and time for that kind of sport. And it was a spectator sport, because I remember seeing it years ago when I was younger, and there was often spectators. But was there any spectators when you witnessed the sport this evening?
Yeah, there was quite a lot actually, but there were a lot to do with the people that were there were like families. There wasn't many of the public there really. I suppose
Right.
there must have been about 40 horses there today. I spoke to one young lady and she was about, I suppose she was 18 or 19, and I went over to her to talk about the sport, and I said to her, "Is this your horse?" And she says, "No." She says, "Yes, this is my horse. All of them are my horses."
I wonder was she talking through her hat, because it doesn't make sense that all the horses would be
No, what she meant
around.
was that there was about 10 horses lined up. And I think the 10 she was looking at, they were all hers.
That sounds extraordinary.
Well, you got to remember
Uh,
it is the sport of kings. So I mean, it's wealthy people that play the sport. So it wouldn't be unusual
yeah,
for
but
you.
you think the other people would have their own horses, or do these horses be trained by certain people for that type of sport, in their own wherever they have their own stud farms or wherever they are for these horses. These are kind of horses, like hunters, and I think they have a certain type of a saddle, and normally the stirrups, but they probably haven't got that type of thing because they have to be free to hit the ball. Now, did they do it with the right hand? Then some people are left-handed and they use the left hand more than the right. I notice quite a few people now writing, and I see them writing with the left hand.
Yeah, as far as
It wasn't
as far as I know,
important.
it can only be played with the right hand polo. If I could be corrected there
Like the
now, but
right hand, and so you have it with one hand. I suppose you couldn't have two hands trying to do it because then you wouldn't be balanced on the horse. I know there can be some injuries attached to it, and from reading about it, I think there's four horses on each team, maybe five at the most, and there's two goals and two kind of places where they can score a goal. There wouldn't be the width of, I don't think, of ordinary pitches where you have they're maybe smaller and not as wide. And then they try to hit the ball in there or hit the. It's like a big cricket ball or something. So it's relatively small. I thought I remember years ago it was bigger, but perhaps it was my imagination when I saw it because it used to be I used to see it a fair bit.
the
Um,
actual
when I
the original ball was made from the root of the willow tree.
Yes.
What's today is made of plastic and made of a whole load of different things, but that the original one was made from the willow tree.
Yeah, well, now I wonder what it is. I saw the word plastic mentioned somewhere, but that doesn't seem a suitable type of thing. But whatever sort of a ball it is, like a large cricket ball, I think somebody said. And so it must be a hard job to try and connect with that. But to have a special type of a implement to be able to do it. And I don't know if this implement scoops it up and then they're able to kind of throw it rather than just hitting it the way you might in other sports. So I must have a look at it myself again to see what way they do it. I know they have this kind of a mallet, but do they are they able to catch it with it and then peg it rather than just hitting it with the back of the mallet or wherever it is, you know. So there must be a couple of tricks up their sleeve, and this sport spread near enough all over the world, including to South America. Argentina was mentioned, and it took off, and so I suppose it's well-to-do people that can afford to have horses for that particular purpose. I'd say they have to be trained, wouldn't they? Because not every horse would take kindly to that type of a sport.
Well, I can tell you the
Uh,
horses that I seen today were the best kept horses. You could see it. You know what they were feeding them. You could see how well they were toned, their muscle tone, the coat on the horse. These were really valuable horses. They were lovely.
I suppose so, and I imagine that the people would own the horses and then probably be a trainer to train them. They all couldn't do it themselves. They mightn't have the grounds for it, so it might be specific individuals that are training these horses for that particular sport. Perhaps people that have acreage and plenty of space to train these horses because they probably have to be trained and in that kind of a sport because it's not every horse would take to that. So they have to be obviously trained over a period of time for to be able to do that. And then when they're riding these horses, I suppose you have to be careful not to bump into somebody or something. There has to be a code, I would think, wouldn't there? You know, when you see these type of things, I just wonder, is there a, I won't say a referee, but somebody that can um, be somebody that can kind of if there's problems to rectify them, you know, that type of way, because it's a sport that it wouldn't be too helpful for horses to be bumping into one another, would it?
It wouldn't.
The riders are there, but if you're concentrating on hitting a ball or scooping it up and then being able to throw it with the mallet, and I have a feeling something like that happens. But so all these are, and I think when they if they do that, then it must rise. And obviously, if that hit you, you'd be in Queer Street, wouldn't you? You'd be suffer, because I know when people play this cricket, which normally would put you to sleep, but it's and if some of them balls hit you, you can be knocked out. You know that type of way. So it's just that the ball for this polo, it could be a hard type of a ball. Isn't that right? And it could, if they're able to rise it with this business that they strike with, if they're able to lift it up and then sort of have a knack of throwing it a further distance rather than just hitting it along the ground, I have a feeling that they can scoop it up as well.
I'm not too sure. I didn't know. I didn't see that when I was there. Generally, I mean, you
You
have.
know.
Yeah, I didn't see. Basically, with the game I seen today, there was a few mounted riders on either side, and they were just hitting the ball. It was mostly not very far from the ground. But it was nice
Oh,
anyway. It was nice to see the horses, the whole lot, and how it's all done for the first time. Because as I say, I I've been passing that field for years, and I never seen the horses, so it was great to see them.
yeah, you are, yeah. It used to be more common, I think, because I saw it plenty of times, and there was for spectators there was a kind of like a stand, and there could be understand and obviously supporters of opposing teams, family members, and maybe friends of families, and that have an interest in that sport. It's a sport for people that have probably a good income or businesses or something that they can afford to have these horses and have them probably trained by people that are experienced at training horses for this particular sport, because it's not every horse could adapt to it. It must be a certain type of horse that is trained to do it, because they wouldn't they'd have to be trained, because not every horse would take to that, because the horses probably have to stop as well when they rein them in so as they can hit the ball, because they're riding and then hitting the ball. It's a very unusual sport, and I don't know how they manage to be able to judge it in the Olympics because of the nature of the sport. And but it's a pity it's not still in the Olympics, because it would be an unusual sport and would attract interest, I think.
Well, look, I mean, whatever about the game, to look at the horses alone is therapeutic.
It is, and when the sun is shining, it's a nice day. The sun shone there yesterday, but I was in and out like a jackass. I put out clothes, and before I could, when I was perhaps doing something else, next thing I saw was rain, so I was out, bring them in, bring them out, and I said, "Ah, hump this for a game of cards." I kept them in, and even today it seemed to be sunnier, but there was rain today too. And I just said, if I put out the clothes, as sure as to God, I'd be going somewhere. and the next thing is I see it's raining, and I'd be too far away to run back, to come back and get the clothes in. So it wasn't worth it, but it seemed to be drier today than normal, and I see there's a blue sky out there at the moment, which is a mystery. Usually there's clouds because I saw some black clouds, so you don't know what way it's going to turn, do you?
You
But the
certainly don't.
vis-a-vis the polo we're talking about, it was a nice day for the polo. So you had a stroll in the Phoenix Park to get the fresh air, and suddenly you saw these lads running around on horses, hitting this ball and this polo. So was that your first view of polo?
It was indeed.
Well, we've seen it umpteen times. I won't say I saw it as much as I might have saw football in Croke Park when I was younger. And I used to go to Croke Park and usually Hill 16. I might have found myself once or twice sitting on a seat. Perhaps the money was more plentiful at that particular time. I was usually on Hill 16, where seats were absent. And you'd be at one end of the thing and you'd see the goal, whoever was in the goal there, and then maybe your team, and then the next team would be in in the goal. So this is the sport, and I think it's. I used to enjoy Croke Park with the competition and all the rest of it. More in the football, I wasn't that keen on hurling. I regarded hurling as a bit of a dangerous game, frankly. But I liked the football. I
Oh,
like the football, and to see somebody being able to catch the ball like Mick O'Connell from Kerry. He could go up there and catch the ball in a lovely manner and take a kick at it and put the ball over the bar for a point from midfield. I
I,
saw that.
I could
And then
tell.
there was another fellow called John Timmins that played for Dublin. And he was a tall lad. He'd go catch the ball and had a lovely kick and put over the bar. But he was a tall lad. And perhaps he was working whatever he was working on. But I know if the ball was somewhere else, he used to have it a rest in the field. In the field, he used to sit down. So I like that. I like somebody slightly eccentric that does things like that. And then he'd rise up and the ball was coming along. And he had a pair of hands. He could go up, would do it apparently to go up and catch the ball and was able to get a kind of a kick and put it over the bar from midfield as well, like Mick O'Connell from Kerry. So I saw all these, and I saw Heffernan and Stockwell from Galway. They had a pair of great feet. They could put the ball over the bar from any angle. So and then there was a John Joe Murray from Roscommon. I saw them winning in All Ireland.
John Malone, we're
So
straying very far away from polo. Anyway,
I'm
there we
just
go.
talking about
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
balls.
yeah.
Yeah, but there was a scarcity of horses. I don't know. We used to have mounted police here one time, I think,
Yeah, we still do.
and I don't see them now. It used to be a nice looking sight to see them on the horses,
If
but
you,
I don't see that now. And don't forget, horses. With the army had horses in the when to be the horse show on in the August weekend or somewhere. It'll be coming up shortly. And that was always a great, the nations, Britain had the horses there and that, and used to be a bit of competition. But the business of the polo, that's a slightly different form. But I'm talking about horses, generally speaking. And the particular horses for the polo obviously have to be trained for that type of thing. So there must be the lady that you were talking to, they must that must be what they do, train these horses.
very good. Thank you very much, John.
Very much, Oliver.